So we're going to go ahead and get started. It's 12:30. So hello everybody, my name is Pam Howes. I'm the Program Director for Work-Based Learning at the National Fund. And I am pleased today to be offering a great webinar on non-traditional youth work-based learning programs. Next slide. So if you'll remember, back in October, we deployed a survey to all of our sites specific to apprenticeship and work-based learning. And one of the things that were revealed as in the survey results was that there are several sites across the National Fund network that ask for technical assistance with youth apprenticeship programs. And so we have put together a very thoughtful webinar for those of you who are interested, and I hope that you are able to learn something today. Next slide. And so I'm very pleased to be offering two very special guests. The first one you'll hear from is Robbie Heinrich. Robbie is the engineering manager for Dana Incorporated in Kentucky, and he also serves as the current president of Kentucky Fame. And I'm going to let him talk more about that for you, but it is a non-traditional apprenticeship program that is not registered with the USDOL. Following Robbie, you'll be hearing from Jesse Simmons from Cincinnati. Jesse is a project consultant for Supply Chain OKI, which stands for Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. And he is working on behalf of our collaborative in Cincinnati called Partners for a Competitive Workforce. So I hope both of you will join me in welcoming Robbie and Jesse as they make wonderful presentations today on their two programs. Next slide. I also want to mention that we've built a pretty robust apprenticeship resource page. So all of these slides that you'll see today will be made available on our website under Initiatives, Apprenticeships, and Resources. And you can also find the two earlier webinars that we did in December on the basic components of an apprenticeship program. And then again in February, the IT software crisis webinar that we did that was very well attended by about 90 people across the network. We've also added many other resources on this page. One of those is a model that I created with the help of Roger Collins from Simmons Energy some years ago. It's a recruiting, screening, and testing model for high school students into work-based learning programs. And of course, if you want to look at that and you need any technical assistance from me, I am happy to walk you through that. So just let me know. Next slide. So we're going to ask you to save your questions to the end. And if you'll notice in your webinar, there is a chat link. If you would go ahead along the way and type your questions into the chat link, those will be made available to me at the end of the webinar. And then I will be able to direct those questions either to Robbie, to Jesse, or I'll be able to answer those myself. And I see somebody's already, Josh, I have a question here that there is an echo. So can you look into that and let me know? So we will answer all questions at the end of the webinar. And I'll make sure that they are directed to the right person. Next slide. And so I'm going to turn things over to Robbie. Robbie is going to take you through the Kentucky Fame model, which is a Toyota model of apprenticeship with work-based learning that is not a registered program with the USDOL, but has really gotten some pretty significant national attention. So Robbie, welcome.
All right, thank you, Pam, and thank you to everybody online. Once again, my name is Robbie, representing the Greater Louisville chapter of Kentucky Fame. We are a collaborative, let's see, can you hear me or am I muted? All right. So Kentucky Fame here, I am fortunate enough to be the president of our local chapter. Our Greater Louisville chapter represents about 6 counties through Kentucky and southern Indiana, and of a metro of about 1 million people. So you can go to the next slide, please. All right, so why consider a job in manufacturing? As many people on the line probably know or have heard, right now there is a shortage of skilled labor, particularly in manufacturing. with a lot of the current workforce in the years of retirement, which is what sparked the interest for programs like Kentucky Fame, which are work and learn. And as Pam mentioned, this originated at Toyota in Georgetown, Kentucky, where they build Camrys. Now there's about 12 chapters throughout Kentucky, and there's 9 different states across the U.S. that have adopted this style of program that I will be discussing. So the job requirements are increasing. Manufacturing sector is very strong. The average salary in manufacturing compared to other sectors is much higher. Sometimes that message doesn't get out to the right base of kids who could be going into it. Great benefits from these employers and challenging projects. So I'll discuss some of those as well. The talent today in this field is not keeping up with the level of technology that automotive manufacturers in general and lots of other sectors of manufacturing are using in their machines and manufacturing processes. All right, so next slide. So as I mentioned, some of the technology required today, robotics is very heavy through manufacturing, and the incumbent workforce struggles with the skill set to repair it. Lots of lasers through high-tech welding and measuring. The sensors are second to none, where we're doing very precise measurements. 3D printing is coming on strong in manufacturing. And so when we are in high schools trying to sell this program to young people and to counselors and to principals, we can kind of reference it like it's video games at work. And a lot of kids in high school don't ever have the opportunity to see a picture like this with robotics and moving things with a pendant or a control stick or advanced troubleshooting. So part of our mission is actually dispelling the myth that manufacturing is like the Industrial Revolution, because it is not. So we can go to the next slide. All right, so a little more about Kentucky Fame. So we're a 2-year program that is work and learn. And what's that mean? That means that students are going to school 2 days a week, they are working 3 days a week, and they're getting paid for 40 hours. At the end of these 5 straight semesters, it's a fall, spring, summer, fall, spring. They are presented with an associate's degree in advanced manufacturing technology. It's a very marketable position right now in advanced manufacturing. I'll get into the differences here in a moment about what makes something advanced manufacturing versus just industrial maintenance. And that's the heart of this program of what we are doing. Locally, we have partnered with KCTCS, which is the Kentucky Community College Network. Our local chapter is the Jefferson County Community Technical School. Every chapter has a partner community college that they are working with. In Kentucky alone, there's 125 different companies that are participating, 10 different satellite branches of KCTCS, and it's between 9 and 12 chapters. There's a couple that are in their infancy, still forming right now. So we can go to the next slide. All right, so what makes Kentucky Fame different again? It is employer run. The employers have the input to the curriculum that the students are getting. The instructors actually will interview employers. They will come see the students in action at their places of work. We can constantly change the instruction that the students are getting at school to best fit the needs of the employers. So here's a list of companies, some of that are participating just in the Greater Louisville chapter. You will notice some big names like Ford and GE, Republic Conduit, and then we have smaller companies like Berry Plastics and Greenlee Textron and D.D. Williamson and Winston Industries. So there's not one sole provider for the program like there are maybe in some other chapters as well. You really get out of it what you put in. So we are constantly recruiting new companies. Events like this help. And actually now that we have, we're in our third a season of recruiting or a third group of cohort students per se, our recruiting efforts have gotten a lot easier or simpler just due to the success of the program kind of spreading like wildfire so far. All right, we can go to the next slide. All right, so what will I learn? The traditional industrial maintenance curriculum program through electricity, robotics, fluid power, mechanics, fabrication, those programs still exist, and they even exist at the community college that we're working in. And those are generally evening classes. What separates the advanced manufacturing technology from industrial manufacturing technology are the professional competencies that we are developing in these predominantly young people. Some of them here on the right side of this slide through safety, visual organization, 5S, a lot of lean manufacturing, problem solving, machine reliability. These are the soft skills that are oftentimes demanded by employers, but have been absent in some of the skilled trades. And, you know, with there being a bubble of a decade or more, where very few people went into this field, right now we're really trying to repopulate and overcome the soon-to-be retirees that are going to leave manufacturing high and dry if we don't really fill the pipeline up. So we can go into the professional competencies a little bit more on the next slide as well. So to further attendance, I think every employer would agree that a solid attendance record is absolutely necessary from their students, taking initiative, diligence, interpersonal relationships, such as the value to a handshake and making eye contact, repeating somebody's name, teamwork. All of the school projects that the students are doing in the lab are in groups. And whether you like your peers or not, you're going to have to learn to work together, because that's going to happen in the real world, so to say. And very strong verbal and written communication skills. And what's exciting about these professional competencies and what sets this program apart is we actually have the employers, representatives from each employer, come to the school and meet with all the students and give these talks on these different topics. So to have, you know, your boss, if you're sitting in class, come up and talk about the value to attendance and being at work on time really helps drive it home, and sometimes even has more value than an instructor. So we pride ourselves on involving the employers and employers running this program. The school is just one of the inputs, a whole lot more inputs from the employers. So we can go to the next slide. All right, so what will the student learn? As I said, they will learn the associates in advanced manufacturing technology, the irreplaceable work experience. There's not many 20-year-old students who can say that they've been in an advanced manufacturing industrial maintenance situation for 2 years already. And I want to add that our recruiting is not 100% high school graduates or recent high school graduates. We do have about 20 to 25% of our population are what we're calling non-traditional, which are generally still younger people, but may have been in the workforce for a few years or had some college and decided to try something else. You know, they wanted to take a different avenue in their life. And the combination of having a little more mature students along with a group of 18-year-olds has really helped keep the group maturity as a cohort together. And I think that's been really valuable as well. To maintain competitiveness throughout the program, we ask all the sponsor companies to pay about $12 an hour so that students aren't upset or comparing that one of them makes more money than the other throughout the program. They are a full-time employee of the employer while they are in Kentucky Fame. So they are subject to that employer's code of conduct, their employee handbook, their attendance policy. They will receive the same benefits that a full-time employee would in addition. So you can see the value to being accepted into this program. And our tagline is your degree debt-free, because the money that you're making while you're sitting in class getting paid by your employer will actually cover the amount of your tuition over the course of the 5 semesters. And I'm happy to say that with our first graduating class last year, we had 100% retention of all of the graduates to the company they were working for. And our second graduating class, which is about to happen on May the 8th of 22 students, it's looking like there will be 100% retention as well. All right, next slide, please. Oh, I mentioned it earlier, but the schedule is work, school, work, school, work. Either Tuesday, Thursday at school, or Monday, Wednesday. We separate the days and have 2 different cohorts just to increase the capacity of the classroom. And for example, this week is actually the college spring break week. So these students spend all 5 days at the employer. So if there's ever a school holiday, they still have to report to work. It's also interesting if they have to be at school at 8 a.m. If they get there and they punch in at 8:01, the instructors send the employers an email immediately and said, your student was tardy today, and they get dinged for a tardy on their work attendance record. So they are on the clock while they're at school, and it's very strict adherence to that policy. All right, next slide, please. Some of the qualifications for a student to be accepted is they have to be college and career ready. It's a benchmark standard, so it's an 18, 19, 20 on the ACT. We do have some state-specific entrance exams that can be taken in replacement of it if need be. And they've also got to meet the pre-employment screens by the company, so that's generally a drug test or a personality test, but it's going to be employer-specific. Some of the characteristics that will move a student's application to the top of the list are good attendance, any high school robotics classes, Skills USA, Project Lead the Way, things like this. A lot of times the students have a mother or a father or a family relative that has been in manufacturing and they've looked up to them. So we see a lot of legacy of children and parents because they realize that, yes, this is a good career. Another thing I want to note is traditionally industrial maintenance probably has had the reputation of being a male-dominated field, and today I can say that we have about 25% females through this program, and of all the employers that I've had the opportunity to speak with, they are blown away by the performance of the females in a field that was traditionally males, and in most cases they're doing a much better job. So for any ladies on the phone or that might be listening, the sky's the limit, and I think this can be a good opportunity for everybody. And maybe one last thing on this slide is something that we're doing, and you know, one of our missions is to educate the counselors, the teachers, even some of the vocational style programs in high school on today's manufacturing. We do a lot of college and career fair events where we are out recruiting these students, and half the time we are talking to the counselors as much as we are the students because they don't know what manufacturing is. So it's catching on, and I think the local school systems are starting to move, but it moves a whole lot quicker when you have the company involvement or actually company ownership. All right, so we can go to the next slide. Some of the expectations on the students. Attendance. If you look at the turnover figures for direct labor, whether skilled or not skilled, so much of it is due to attendance. So the instructors do a really good job reminding the students that on time is 15 minutes early. You have to have professional dress. You're going to have a collared shirt while you're at school, and you're going to look presentable. You have to have the positive attitude. Students are graded on it. You have to maintain a minimum of a C average. I can say that we have not had to have any discussions with somebody due to poor grades. The students have a success coach assigned by the community college to make sure that they're keeping their grades up, and they have a mentor at the workplace to ensure that they are staying safe first and foremost, and learning what they need to be learning while they're doing the on-the-job training and actually working more so than training. And as I mentioned earlier, they have to adhere to all the employer guidelines as they are that employer's employee. All right, we can go to the next slide. So I've also got this, since the topic of discussion was non-traditional, the FAME model is non-traditional in that we are not necessarily a registered apprenticeship. We do, however, have companies that use the hours towards a registered apprenticeship. Hours are apprenticeable, but it is set up through the state capitol. This is completely employer-led, so it's up to the employer if they want to go through one of these, get a state certificate for a journeyman or not. I can tell you my particular company does not. We want the jack of all trades maintenance person with a good attitude, and we're building that through this program. We just want to build this pipeline of workers to fill the skills gap that is happening. So I'm happy to help clarify any of that when we have question and answers. So last but not least, on the next two slides, if you want more information, you can get a hold of Kentucky Fame through kyfame.com and fameusa.com for the nationwide. And the last slide here is if you want to go one more, it's kind of a compilation of some of the students at work in the workplace. You have to have fun, and so we try and put some smiles in there as well. And I think all the students will tell you that not only have they learned a lot, they've really enjoyed being with some people who are clearly passionate about workforce development and improving the community by offering these opportunities to young people. So Pam, I think that concludes my presentation for the moment.
Great, thanks, Robbie. Very interesting presentation. I look forward to meeting you when I'm in Louisville, Kentucky on March the 27th at the event that they're having there at the community college. So hopefully I'll get to meet you personally, and I appreciate your participating today. I'm sure we'll have some questions for you at the end as well.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. So I want to introduce Jesse next. So Jesse is a consultant that's working in Cincinnati on a supply chain work-based learning program. They're actually recruiting high school students to go into this program. I think it's a really interesting model, just like the Kentucky Fame model. And so Jesse, I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Let me just take and set expectations up front here for you. We have roughly 12,000 jobs that are available in our region for supply chain. So there's a big need for us to focus on a number of different areas. So our strategy is to focus on youth program, which means we're working with high school students. In addition to that, we're working with community organizations, working with adults that have been long-term unemployed or adults who perhaps generationally have not worked. So there's a community aspect of that as well. In addition to that, we're focusing on college students. We're looking to encourage college students to major in supply chain. We're also for those students to, if they major in supply chain, to give them internship opportunities, with the thought being as we can grow our talent from within our region and then keep our talent within our region by working with colleges as well. So look in terms working across all different areas to recruit people and encourage them to work in supply chain. So this page here is a shot of our website. If you want to learn more about supply chain, at the end of this, go to #SupplyChainOKI. You can learn more about the work that we're leading. Under the partners area, that partner will cover business partners, it'll cover educational partners, and also cover community partners and technical training partners as well. If you look in terms a little bit further over and you see resources, if someone wants to learn about supply chain, if they click resource page and they'll go to a page that'll show them what resources are available. For example, there'll be videos available to help people learn about what supply chain is. In addition to that, they'll be able to see videos on various employers that are there too, so you learn more about the various employers that are part of our group. Now that next page, the next tab there shows jobs there. So if someone wants to apply for a job, if they click jobs, they'll be able to go directly to the job page, and they'll see various logos of business partners there. If they click those logos, they can then apply for jobs there as well too. So I want to make sure we promote that page in case folks are interested in job opportunities in the Cincinnati area. Let's go to the next page. So the next page here will share with you in terms of what our strategy is. So rather than read that entire strategy for you, what I'll do is highlight a couple of things. Is that we're focused on helping to get people prepared for the 21st century economy. So that's one of our core goals there. This is a business-led initiative, which means that it's led by business leaders, but it's a collaborative approach. Our collaboration is working with educators, we work with community organizations, we're working with parents as well as in this process, and others within our community to make sure that our business needs are met. Let's go to the next page. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is we're going to talk about the organizational structure of our group. We're going to talk about career pathways. We're going to talk about our high school youth program. And we're also going to talk about the MSSC, CLA, CLT, employability skills and academic skills training program as well too. Let's go to the next page. So this page here will share with you in terms of how we're organized. We're organized as an advisory group, an advisory board. That advisory board is a board that focuses on what needs to be true in order to help us meet the workforce needs of our region. And that's led by business partners. We then have a community team. That community team is focusing on how to get people from community programs involved in the workforce. That's roughly at 33 to 35% of people in our region who have not worked or are retired or have disabilities. But our goal in order to help our workforce is at a zero unemployment rate right now, so we have some retention issues. So we need to take and attract more people to the workforce. We're going to use that community team to attract more people to the workforce. That team meets every quarter. And the next team is an educational team. Our goal there with the educational team, again, is to attract more people to supply chain. Supply chain major falls under business, so people majoring in business in college would take gen ed courses that also apply to supply chain, but they'd also be able to get a degree in supply chain as well, or operations. So we're encouraging folks from an educational standpoint to get more involved in supply chain, major supply chain, then come back while they're in college and get internship opportunities with various business partners. So you think about what we're trying to accomplish here. We want to be able to get people involved in supply chain from all the different areas. The community arm that we're reaching out to. Under the advisory board, we have the youth program. We're reaching out to high school students to make them aware of supply chain opportunities. And the educational side, we want to get future leaders involved at college level, thinking about supply chain. Now, the leaders that host the community team and host the educational team meeting will then come to our quarterly advisory board meeting to provide updates in terms of how well we're tracking versus our goals, in addition to making sure that we understand what the needs are from a community or an educational standpoint. Let's go to the next page. So what we have here is an organizational chart that shares in terms of what a supply chain looks like. And let me give you a couple of examples. The box on the far right-hand side, that would be your Kroger, your Procter & Gamble supply chain network, your Perfetti. In the middle box there would be a supply chain that would represent a Cintas model, would look similar to that. If you look at the left side, that would be your Amazon model, your DHL model, your TQL model would be in that area there. Now the key we talk to people is to understand is that each of those boxes in those areas, it goes back to the far right-hand side, and up in the far right-hand side, left-hand corner, it says distribution and warehousing. Each of the boxes there represents a department within a supply chain. Everything that we do is we share with people in meetings across our region. We make them aware that everything in our life moves through supply chain. So we get involved in supply chain and distribution and warehousing. The reason why we're recruiting high school students who not necessarily go on to college is they can start their career at an entry-level role in supply chain, making a very competitive salary with good benefits, good wages, tuition reimbursement programs, and start their career at an entry-level role, but they can then progress and get promoted within supply chain by contributing, making sure delivering results. At the same time, too, as needed, they can then get promoted by going on a continued education within supply chain. We also would let people aware, too, that if you major in finance in college, if you major in IT in college, or engineering, or purchasing, or human resources, you can find a home in supply chain. So one of our goals really is to make people aware of all those opportunities that exist within a supply chain organization. And many people do not realize that Amazon is a supply chain company, Walmart is a supply chain company, and there's a very strong supply chain arm of P&G, a strong supply chain arm of Kroger as well too. So there's great opportunities for folks. We want to make sure they are aware of those opportunities, and that's what we're doing. We're in the process right now of creating our first video for our region. They'll be speaking to supply chain within our region and making students aware of those opportunities. Let's go to the next page. This particular page here will share with you in terms of what's taking place from a co-op standpoint. We currently have a co-op program that we're doing with CPS, Cincinnati Public Schools, and a Cincinnati Public School career pathway that's in place there with them will help students understand what supply chain is, what the career opportunities are, and what we're offering right now is working with different business partners to create. Case here, we're creating a pilot with Cincinnati Public Schools, and our partner company is DHL. DHL is working with those students and will give them a job opportunity while they're in high school. These students are 17 and 18 years old. Prior to this particular work, DHL will only hire 18-year-olds. They're not going to be looking at hiring 17-year-old kids. And while they're going through this training program, working roughly 10 hours a week while they're in high school. Once they graduate high school, they have an opportunity to work full time for DHL. And as part of this, what we're doing is we're giving a holistic approach in helping these students. We're giving them the coaching and training that's required from an MSSC standpoint. We're also giving those kids training in terms of financial adequacy. How do they manage? How do they establish themselves in terms of lines of credit? How do they get a bank account set up? How do they get debit cards? We're doing all of that to help those kids go off to a good start. The other piece we're doing too is we have a coach coming in and helping the students understand what's required in terms of job readiness skills. So when they get to work and in a work environment, they'll understand how to work and how to show up and make sure they have good attendance. They're working real hard and they get things done. There'll also be a on-site coach coming in a couple times a week to give those students advice as well. On top of that, working with the students and giving them transportation from door to door. So DHL will give them transportation while they're in high school, and once they graduate and they're offered an opportunity in high school, after high school with DHL, they'll have full transportation for a year while the kids are able to establish themselves. Now, our focus is roughly 35,000 students within our region, and our goal this coming fiscal is to have a co-op program in place for all the high schools. This co-op program here applies to, a student has to be a senior, has to be 17 or 18 years old in order to work, and then they give it an opportunity with various business partners. We're again, that this particular pilot for co-ops, this is our second year with the program there. Let's go to the next page. Now, what this program shares with is a MSSC training, is a certified manufacturing certificate they'll receive as part of this process. It's two stages. There's a certified logistics part of it, which is a CLA, and what they're going to receive is training on global supply chain logistics and life cycle. They'll get logistics environment. They'll get safety principles. They'll understand how to manage material handling as part of that process. And they'll get quality control principles in addition to that. Now, the right side there shows a certified logistics technician. Once they pass the CLA or the certified logistics degree, they'll get the second phase of that program. They'll help teach those students about product receiving. They get product storage, order processing. They'll also receive packaging and shipping as well. And they'll have safe handling and hazmat materials experiences as well. Now, what this will then do for those students is that they'll have more experience than the average person going and applying for jobs. As a result of that, the students will start at a much higher competitive salary than they would otherwise. In this case here, for the students that are working with DHL, their starting salary is going to be $13.55 an hour, which is very competitive, and the students are very, very excited about that process. In fact, we're going to do a press release of that program this Friday. Next page. So you think about what's taken place so far is that the students themselves are going to receive a certified logistics technician program that recognizes through certification individuals who demonstrates mastery of the core competencies. So these students will have mastery of those core competencies when they complete that first part of that program. And the second part, those students will have roughly 80 questions on a test. They'll have 90 to 120 minutes to complete that test. Once they complete that test, they'll then receive their certificate as well. Next page. So the credentials they're going to receive will be the MSSC will issue them individual assessments. They'll get a certificate. They'll get a small CLA arm patch. They'll receive also a work activities document that'll be completed. They'll also receive individual pass for CLA assessments that they receive, that they'll get a diploma. In this case here, with these students, we've also got this program is being certified by our community college as well. So they'll receive 2 to 3 credit hours to complete the program. They'll get a large CLT arm patch and a wallet card. They'll get key activities document that they'll be able to share with employers So they'll have something they'll be able to take away. The right side shows an instructor that's teaching a course, adjunct professor. And I had the opportunity to attend this class at Data High School. It was so impressive at how involved these students were, how excited they were about having a career, and they can't wait to get started. Many of these kids that are in this program out of high school were not planning to go on to college, but would now have an opportunity to get college paid for through a tuition reimbursement program. They have an opportunity to start their career with a company that'll give them a chance to be promoted and be able to move forward in the future. So they have a great opportunity for them. So they'll be set up for success is what we want to be able to do. And they'll have an opportunity to get off to a great start after high school. Next page. So in summary here, this is a slide of our first graduating class. This graduating class graduated last year from a high school, Lloyd High School in Northern Kentucky. And these students did a fabulous job in terms of completing that program. We had 100% completion. And you can see the diversity of the students that are involved in this program. And there was a lot of joy on the parents' face that participated in this program. And this was our first year that we completed this program. So it required that we convince employers that this was a great idea. One of the employers just hired a 17-year-old, his name was Jesse. And they were very reluctant to hire this student, not only because of his age, but also because he's very, very young. The president of Legion Logistic, Lacey Starling, came back and said, she has never made a better decision in her life than hiring this young man by the name of Jesse. He went on to hit home runs for them in their business while working part-time at their business in his senior year. He continued to work part-time there. He went on to work part-time at a night shift, part-time night shift job at DHL and did a great job there. And in fact, he worked at DHL so he could earn tuition reimbursement money. He got tuition reimbursement money, and now he's going on and taking courses at NKU. So every student that's gone through this program so far, the feedback from our employers has been off the chart positive. And that's why we have every reason to believe that we can expand this to all of our high schools within our region and start with pilots of roughly 10 to 20 students per pilot, and then have that scalable as we go forward in the future. We're approaching these students with lunch and learns. We're talking through them through parent night. We're doing career expos. We spent a lot of time working with these students to get them engaged in supply chain. When we first started this process, there were 0 hands going up about who was knowledgeable of supply chain. And now roughly it's probably about 20 to 30% of the hands going up at different high schools about who's knowledgeable of supply chain going forward into the future. That was my last slide, I believe.
So Jesse, 2 questions for you.
Yes.
So was it difficult to get students to understand the concept of supply chain and to kind of get their interest in a supply chain career?
Yes, what helped was the fact that we do lunch and learn, which means we're buying students lunch. So we're buying pizza lunch, and we're bringing in a professor, we're bringing in a business leader, and we're taking them through an orientation of what supply chain is. We've got a video that explains to students what supply chain is, and we talk to them about how this connects with their lifestyle, and that has enabled us to get more students involved in the supply chain process.
Great. And so this is a question for Robbie. When you were talking about really having 25% of your participants as females, did you do anything significant or special in your recruiting process in order to target females into your program?
What we do is we bring in minorities, we bring in women, we bring in men. We bring in a diverse group to present to students. And we found that really touched the hearts of different students as a result of that.
Yeah, and Pam, kind of the same thing goes for us. When we've gone into schools, we always make an effort to bring one of the current students. So sometimes it's male, sometimes they're female. And we found obviously that high school students will listen to 19 or 20-year-old about their experiences a lot more than somebody from the industry. So nothing in particular that we've done different. We've just put the facts out there that both genders have performed really well through this program. And
we've also found that we've been able to locate some graduates that graduate various high schools that are now working for some of our business partners. Wherever possible, we invite them to participate as well.
So Jesse, this question is for you. Will the high school students who work 10 hours have to be 18 years old?
In some cases, that was a rule, 18. We've gone back to employers, and now those students are hiring 17-year-olds as well, too.
So I guess that would depend on the employer and their own internal policies, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So to both of you, these are high school students who may be uncertain if manufacturing or supply chain is the right career choice for them. How do you help them make this decision? And also, what happens if a student decides partway through the program that this industry or role is not for them? Is there an off-ramp for them that does not penalize them?
What I do is I talk to students and let them know this is not a life commitment. They want to decide what's best for them, and they can make that change anytime they want to. What I want to do is make sure is have them make informed choices, fully understand what the opportunities are, fully understand what other opportunities are within the supply chain or anything involved in. And I'd encourage them to make those decisions, but make that decisions as based on knowledge and rather than just a decision.
Yeah, Pam, something that we've started doing is after the students have applied to the Kentucky FAME and are accepted, we actually set up plant tours in different manufacturing facilities in the area. And a lot of these young people have never even been in a manufacturing plant. So they can generally tell pretty quickly if they would feel comfortable or if this is for them or not. And we have seen a few people fall out before they're placed just after they've gone through a manufacturing plant. So that's one way to kind of help the employer and help the student. And then as far as, an off-ramp for them, if something doesn't work out, if they lose their sponsorship or they decide it's not for them, they obviously can keep their credits from the local community college, and some of them may transfer into another program. And then we also have a few partnerships set up with like Northwood University, and we have an advanced manufacturing business degree that we can track kids into if they'd rather go that route than purely to a route.
Let me comment on that too, Pam, is that the students who go through the CoOp program and get the MSSC certificate and college credits, they keep those credits, and so that will not be taken back. What we also do too is we do career expos, we do job shadowing in career exploration. So students have an opportunity to go to a business and then see what that really means in terms of those jobs and how that looks, and able to make those decisions as they go forward. But again, because of our students today, is that we encourage them to make informed decisions based on data. Look in terms of, if that's not for you, make that decision. They can still continue to work there. But our thought being is that if you decide you don't want to do that as a life, as your career, work there and use that tuition reimbursement, okay, and then major in something and let that business pay for it for you.
So Robbie, this question is specific to you. What high schools have you partnered with in the Kentucky area? This is from Diane Roberts. She says, we are scheduled for a tour of Toyota on March the 21st, and we would like to visit some of these schools that are participating.
Okay. Well, the Toyota plant you're probably visiting is in Georgetown, which is a little over an hour from our chapter. It's more in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm sure they have some schools, but if you do make it to the greater Louisville area, some of the high schools that we've really partnered with are Eastern High School, Southern High School, Doss High School, Jeffersontown High School, and you can feel free to connect with me and I can try and put you in touch with the right person. But these are high schools that the local school system has created an academy model and has manufacturing-based classrooms or a welding lab or machining lab. And these have proven to build some students who are actually pretty interested in this trade. I saw another question here about what about these students that might go into a full-time apprenticeship program? What credits do they get? I'd mentioned that the work hours are apprenticeable towards an industrial maintenance apprenticeship. So throughout the 5 semesters, they have about 2,000 hours on the job that can go towards a journeyman certificate. But I think that the total certificate's about 8,000 hours. So they can maybe get about a quarter of it done if the employer wants them to continue on with apprenticeship.
And so what's the track record for both of you of the students that go into the program that actually complete?
Well, for me that have completed the program, our targets, which we are on track to meet, are 80% retention after the first semester and 100% retention after the first semester. knowing we may have some fallout. And so far, we are at that benchmark. I think the overall FAME in Kentucky retention rate is about 98% post first semester.
Jesse, can you speak to that?
Yes, I will. I'm just going through the math. We had roughly 32 students go through that program in Northern Kentucky, and we had roughly two students drop out. In terms of the students right now that at CPS, we have 20 students and none have dropped out at this point. I suspect that as time goes on, we get more involved. We may see those numbers change, but the participation rate is very, very high at this point in time.
And so for both of you, for the students who start and then leave the program, what are the reasons that they give for falling out?
One of the reasons I would say that for falling out would be not being able to pass the test.
Yeah, for me, the couple instances that we have lost a student is largely attendance, and that they can't get used to the hours of starting early in the morning, and I know that we lost one student due to inability to pay his tuition. And even though there are a lot of grants and KEYS money and things available, sometimes there's some finances that can't make work either.
Can you speak?
Pam, for us, one of the things that's different is that our students are taking this course while at school. So it's at the end of the last bell. So they're likely going to be in school for those courses.
So let me understand that, Jesse. So they are actually getting the coursework while they're in high school, and it's not costing them anything. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Robbie, so there is a tuition cost to the students who take the program?
Yeah, so the students enroll with the Jefferson County Community Technical College. So they enroll in the program, but they are making a wage while they are in school to cover their expenses. And so they can either put that straight towards their tuition, or if they're a high school graduate, if they have some living expenses, then they have to cover that as well.
And Robbie, I'm sure they're able to apply for financial aid for Pell Grants, things like that.
Yeah, most of the students come out of this with no debt and very few out-of-pocket expenses due to the aid. And in addition, it's a 2-year program, and most of the employers have a tuition reimbursement policy for employees that have been with them for 6 or 9 or 12 months. It's going to be employer specific, but largely it comes at very little cost to them.
So this question is from one of my North Carolina colleagues who happens to have an apprenticeship program. Chris Harrington asked the question, what is the testing and selection process? Do the participants earn the same wages as other workers? Are they full-time, or do any employers work through temporary agencies? At what point do participants earn benefits?
Let me take that first. And in our case, the students that's going through the program, they're earning whatever the competitive wages for that employer. They're not getting anything less, but they're getting a competitive wage for that process. If they want benefits, in some cases, they can get benefits. If they decide not to get benefits, then their wage would go up would be higher. It's their choice. Did I get all those questions?
Yeah.
Testing and selection process and the wage.
Okay, so it's the testing process. The selection process is done by the school. Each school has its own selection process. We give them some general guidelines, and then the school selects the students based on those guidelines, and they adjust them accordingly. GPA would be one of those. Attendance would be another. And so they go through, and then a school would select the students in that process. The testing would be done by the score they get at the completion of that course.
And Robbie, what about you?
Yep. So for testing and selection, all the students have an application they have to fill out. They do have to meet the college and career ready benchmarks on the ACT score. And then we go through a host of interviews with a panel of all the employers to deem if the student is fit for the program or not. And they have to write an essay. They have to answer a lot of questions, based on personality tests and technical abilities, professional competencies. We're really recruiting for, all-star students through this interview process. And so after, if they've passed, then they go into the pool of available employee or available students who have qualified. And then we have a draft where all the employers, it really is like a fantasy football draft. Employers pull names out of a hat, and if you get the number one number, you get the first round draft pick and get to pick one of the qualified students for our annual CoOp that starts in the fall. Relative to the wages against other workers, we do, I had mentioned in the presentation, but we ask that all students make about $12 an hour through the 5 semesters just to keep it competitive. So we don't want Ford coming in and paying $20 an hour where a smaller company might only pay $12. Then post-graduation, most of the students are going to go, with a substantial increase to $20, $25, $30 an hour in a maintenance role. I see in here, our employees working through temporary agencies. Right now, all of our students are full-time employees with the sponsor companies, not through a temp agency. And most all of them earn full benefits. We don't mandate it, but that's how it works out.
So I just want to mention for the participants that the DOL has actually changed their stance on temporary agencies. So there is a policy letter that's been released that says that companies who may not be able to hire students under the age of 18 may be able to hire them through a third-party contract agency. So if you're interested in learning more about that, reach out to me directly and we can discuss that. So I have a question from Manica Collins Bryant, and she's asking to show the screen again that shows how to access the slides, but I'm just going to talk about that briefly. So this webinar is actually being recorded, and at the end of the webinar in the next day or so, you'll be able to access the slides at the nationalfund.org website. If you go to the initiatives tab and you look at expanding apprenticeships, it'll take you to an apprenticeship resource page. We have built a pretty robust resource page there for you. Feel free to use any of those. We've included an employer readiness checklist as well as the recruiting, testing, and screening model. And also all of our webinars that we have done December, February, and today are listed at the bottom of that resource page. So feel free to visit our website, look at those resources, see what might be helpful to you. And if you need more information, then please reach out to me directly. And Josh, if you'll advance to the last slide, we actually have a slide here with our contact information. So my email address, Robbie's email address, and Jesse's email address. And so if you have questions for these folks directly, just let them know that you're going to reach out to them via email for more information. So I'm showing that we don't have any more questions at this time. That doesn't mean that we won't be available to ask questions in the future. And so I thank all of you for your participation, Robbie, Jesse, especially the two of you, to share these wonderful programs that you're doing with youth. And I thank you very much.
Thank you, Pam.
Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Bye.